All right, welcome everyone to our housing application webinar for the fall 2026 semester. We're going to make sure that everyone is able to join us because we are filling up our Zoom and then we have people heading over to Facebook. So while we are waiting for everyone to jump on before we jump into the content of the webinar, just wanted to see if we can practice using the Q&A feature just so that you're familiar with where to ask your questions throughout the webinar. So you'll find the Q&A button on the bottom. If you can go ahead and put in there where you're joining us from, city, state, whatever you want to put in there, we'll start looking at that and just see who's here. So you have people coming in from Missouri, Arkansas, Kansas City, probably lots of Kansas here. So, yep, Olathe, Illinois, Texas. Nebraska, Missouri, Kansas. If you're joining us on Facebook, you can also put into the chat there a comment where you're coming from as well, where you're joining us from. More Texas, lots of Kansas, of course, that makes sense. Saw some Colorado in there, Alaska, very nice. Iowa,
I saw
Kansas,
Liberty.
where you
I'm from
go.
Liberty.
Very nice. Thank you all for joining us. If you want to keep putting in the chat where you're joining us from, thank you so much for coming from everywhere, um, and near and far. So wonderful. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to go ahead and start with introductions. So you'll see Jordan and I on the screen here. Um, And if we want to go to that first intro slide. So my name is Whitney Penn. I'm the Assistant Director for Student Recruitment, Marketing, and Communications. And I'll let Jordan introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jordan Wolf. My title is Assistant Director for Student Outreach and Student Staff Development.
And we're going to be joining you, or of course joining you. We're going to be leading you through the webinar for most of the evening. And then also Kathy Van Seenis, who's Assistant Director for Contracts and Occupancy Management, is going to do a demo of the actual resident portal system where you're going to be submitting the contract. So we're going to start off with a couple just information about what we're going to cover for this evening. So here is just a snapshot of the information we're going to cover. I wanted to make sure to say that you may have attended an event, maybe where even Jordan spoke, or myself spoke, where we explained some of this information. We have a new housing management system, so a new software. So some of these things may have changed slightly, and also we have a lot of people who maybe have never seen this presentation before. So some of this might be information you've seen before, some of it might be new. So we're going to talk about our first year residency and what that means for you as a student living on campus. We're going to talk about our housing process and what the timeline looks like for that throughout the year and leading up to when you come to campus in the fall. We are going to talk about residential cat communities and specialty housing options. We'll explain what those are. We're going to highlight what our meal plans are alongside dining dollars. We'll talk a little bit about what roommate selection is going to look like. Kathy will do the demo, and then we'll go through some final notes and final reminders, things to be thinking about as we wrap up the webinar, and we'll end with a question and answer Q&A session. So that's the snapshot of what we're doing. A couple of notes for you to be aware of as we're going through the webinar tonight. So as you've already practiced, if you are joining us on Zoom, you're going to submit questions through that Q&A feature. So if you did, put where you're coming from. If you're joining us on Facebook, you're going to put comments into the Facebook Live video. And that is where our team, who is behind the scenes, is going to answer your questions as we go throughout the presentation. So yes, we have that Q&A at the end, but we're going to have lots of questions throughout, and those questions will get answered as we go along as well. So feel free to drop those in the Q&A or comment on the Facebook Live video. Something just for you to know, we may direct you to learn more about questions specifically related to room selection or move-in during our room selection webinars in March and move-in webinar in July. We'll give some more dates surrounding that. But just wanted you to be aware of that because we do have a new system, so some things are still shifting. So we may not have answers to some specific questions, and then also we just want to provide that level of specificity during each of those webinars. So. Um, it is important for you to know, though, that the webinar is being recorded and we're going to post it to our website following this evening. We will also email a link of the recording out to everyone who is on this evening and those who registered as well. So you're able to come back to that video, reference it anytime that you would like. And if you have to drop off at any point during the evening, you'll be able to pick that up where you left off. And the last thing for you to know is we're going to put links in the chat for the Zoom and then also in the comments for those on Facebook for the key websites or links that we want you to access. They're going to be in the presentation as QR codes. You're also going to see the links within the presentation, but we just want to give those links to you in as many ways as we possibly can. Great.
All right. So jumping into our main information for tonight, most of our first year students live with us on campus. Part of that is because of our residency requirement. Manhattan's campus students who are first year students are required to live on campus for their first 2 semesters most of the time. There are a few people who might qualify for some exemptions, and that would be an application process that you'll want to look out for. I think the best resource for you is going to be, which this QR code will take you to the first year living page. That's going to have a detailed list of all the exemptions and explain how you would go about that process for anyone who thinks they would not want to be living on campus. Some important things to know is that housing and dining services, or HDS, are the sole source of an exemption. And then just to give you an idea of what some circumstances would qualify some students for an exemption would be other community living environments like a fraternity or sorority house or a scholarship house, a student who's maybe commuting, or a non-traditional student, maybe married or has children, things like that. So along with the housing application process, the exemption form will also open up, and that's going to happen on December 9th for the 26-27 academic year. All right. So next is just an overview of our housing process in general. So everything that you do for this is going to be through the resident portal. This QR code will take you there, but it also is just like the biggest purple button on our main website. So if you just go to housing.kstate.edu, you're going to see the button to log into the resident portal. So it'll be super easy to find. So instead of having students fill out their preferences and then we assign the space, students actually choose the specific room that they want out of what is available. So obviously that's a whole lot of students and a whole lot of rooms to get placed. So the way that it works is that the first group of students who submits their application and their payment for step one will be the first group of students who selects their room in step three. So people do often like to do the application on the earlier side because that would get them closer to the front of the line to choose from rooms. So to go through all three of the steps in the process, step one is going to be the residence hall housing application, which is what we're here to talk about tonight, because it's going to open a week from now, December 9th at 3 p.m. Central Time. That's a Tuesday next week. And so at that time, the housing application and the exemption forms are going to open up. So you'll be able to find that again on the resident portal. So along with that process, on the 9th, what you're going to want to be prepared to do is submit a $230 initial payment. And it's not a deposit. It's not money that you get back. It's just money that you don't have to pay later. And if you're not 100% certain that you're going to be at K-State next year, that's okay because you can get $200 of that payment back as long as you cancel before June 1st. All right. So once you submit that housing application, either on December 9th or after December 9th, at any point after that, you will want to, you'll have a little bit of time before it's time to select your room. So we recommend that you use that time to explore your different living options. We have some tools available for you. First of all, the Explore Your Options tool is available on our website. It lets you select different room types and different halls and compare the different features to each other. So that's really helpful. Each residence hall also has its own web page that gives you all the stats about that community. And also, if you want to get to know the more like personal side of the communities, our social media is great for that. We'll have community spotlights on Facebook and Instagram from January through March if you want to get more of an idea of what those communities are like. All right. And so then once we get into the spring semester, after kind of our returning students have chosen, once we're like ready for room selection, it'll be time for step three. So we have a couple of groups of students in our specialty housing that we'll get to in the next couple slides. For residential CAT communities and honors housing, those students actually select their rooms a little bit earlier than everyone else. And so we're expecting that to happen on March 23rd. And then everyone else will start selecting in early to mid-April. So once again, the first group of people who submitted their housing application when it opened will be the first group of people to start selecting in early to mid-April. You'll find in the resident portal, I think, the date and time that you get to choose, either that and or it'll be emailed to your K-State email. I'm sure that my colleagues here will correct me on which one that is. But either way, this is a great time to mention that it's really important to start getting in the habit of checking your K-State email because that's where almost all of our communication to our students is going to come. So it's just good to start practicing that now.
Perfect. So, one of the elements of that, as you could see from the third step, is that we have residential cat communities and specialty housing options, two of which select their rooms early. So we wanted to talk about what residential cat communities are. So as you can see, residential cat communities is one of those groups who can select their room early. So cat communities are set up such that you live in the same residence hall or the same community. So it may be a collection of buildings, but within the same. So you have the Kramer community and the Derby community, as well as the Strong community. So it would be within buildings close to one another. And they take a group of classes together with a peer mentor who also lives in one of the residential hall spaces with them or near them, depending on which building they live in. These cat communities are based on either a shared area of interest or shared area of study. So you can see from the cat communities that are available as residential cat communities, there are also many that are tied not to a specific living community. These are the ones that are tied to specific buildings or specific communities. So these communities consist of up to 22 students. AP Design, there are three different communities, so it's 66 students. So if you are in one of these majors or may have an interest in one of these topics, you can join this cat community, and essentially what it does is brings the larger community, which you can see over there on the right-hand side with the infographic, that larger residential hall community into a smaller community where you can support each other through study groups or just social connections, again, connecting around that shared area of interest or major. So if that's something that you would be interested in, you can scan the QR code and see more about what each of those individual cat communities consists of. There are classes, which is also what that infographic on the right-hand side is showing. There are two 3-credit courses and a one credit course. The 3-credit courses are typically going to be something that's part of the core classes that you're going to study at K-State, and then the one credit is going to be central to the topic of that CAT community, and it's just going to be those CAT community students with a professor who is leading that CAT community as well as with the peer mentor. So again, it's going to give you a space to connect with others in a different way and make that larger community smaller as well. You will have the opportunity, as Kathy will show, to indicate interest in this within the application. So we're going to show a little bit about what it's like to be a part of those cat communities so you can kind of see what that experience would be like to see if it's something that you might be interested in. And again, indicate interest in that within the application itself.
Being in the CAT community my first year has helped me really kind of hit the ground running. It showed me a lot of how to function at Kansas State University, and I don't think I would have really learned as quickly as I needed to if I weren't in this CAT community.
It reminded me that education can be fun. It was so much easier to feel excited to go to class because I got to go to my CAT community class, and it just was so like electrifying.
I think every CAT community has some aspect of that where it's going to help you learn a lot about the academics that you're specifically interested in, which is great that there's so many different CAT communities because no matter what you're interested in, there's something for you.
I was also able to make connections with these students in other majors as well as kind of learn the ins and outs of college in general. And it helped me to succeed.
And if you don't join a CAT community, you lose out on so much fun you could have your freshman year.
Coming into this CAT community was really beneficial for me, and I think it put me ahead of a lot of the students who weren't in CAT communities.
It's kind of hard to imagine not ever being in a CAT community because it has impacted my life so much.
Right, so that is our CAT communities. And then our first specialty housing option that we're going to talk about is honors housing. So honors housing is provided within the Strong community. There are three buildings within that community. There's Putnam, Van Zyl, and Boyd. In coming into the 2026-2027 school year, so if you're starting in fall 2026, only two of those buildings will be open. That's Van Zyl and Boyd Halls. But essentially, that community is open to students who are an active member within the University Honors Program. And what that community provides is an environment that emphasizes both community development and academic success. Obviously, students are part of the honors program. And so the central connecting point is around that. But there are a lot of opportunities to connect around other shared areas of interest as well. The Strong community is unique in that it is our most historic community, and so it provides some very historic and unique community spaces, especially as we are going to be in several days here moving students into the newly renovated Boyd Hall space, which we will show you here in a moment what that looks like. So that's going to be a very kind of newly revamped space for students as we're expanding our honors housing community. There is an additional application that's required for those students who would like to live within honors housing. That is going to open on December 9th as well. When the housing application goes live, you can scan that QR code and bookmark that link if you would like to have that link to apply for the honors housing application or for honors housing rather, but that will link you to the application. That will also be provided an automatic email that is generated once you complete the application. So there are going to be links in multiple places for you to access that as well. And then we will allow non-honors roommates. So if there's a roommate that you know that you're wanting to live with who is not anticipating to be a part of the honors program, as space allows, we will allow non-honors roommates. So as we get closer to room selection, we'll know more specifically about how much space that we will need and who would be able to do that. I do just want to highlight that there is, for students who have been accepted into honors housing and confirmed that they are in honors housing, those students will also be able to select their room early as well, specifically within the spaces in that building. So, because this community is unique and because Boyd is opening again after several years being closed and it's newly renovated, we did want to show you what that space kind of looks like and give you a little bit of a peek into that. If you're thinking about joining the honors program or thinking about honors housing, if you have already applied for the honors program. So we'll show you that video here.
Hello, my name is Frankie Vega. I'm the Assistant Committee Coordinator for the Strong Complex. I'm super excited to welcome everyone back to Boyd in the next coming weeks. We are actually putting the finishing touches. We're excited to have students move back into Boyd, so I'm excited to bring you along and give you a tour of Boyd. We're now in a double room here in Boyd Hall. We have several upgrades, starting with new furniture, new flooring, new lighting, as well as increased fire safety and improved wireless internet in the hall. Welcome to our lower level. As you can see, we have tons of space for residents to have the opportunity to collaborate, gather. Right behind me, we have our brand new kitchen, which allows residents opportunity to cook and do amazing things in the kitchen. In our lower level, we also have our laundry room, fitness center, as well as some study spaces available for residents. And we're actually right down the hall from our honors program offices. One of the most significant differences is our pod-style bathrooms. Each pod comes with 8 different private style bathrooms, which has a toilet, shower, and a sink with the ability to close and lock your doors to have a little bit more privacy like your bathroom at home. We're really excited to allow some more space for residents to gather in their community. So now on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floor, for the first time in Boyd history, we each have a lobby on each floor, creating that space for residents to gather.
And I'm going to have us go back one slide to the honors housing just for a quick moment as we talk about some questions that were coming up really frequently. I just wanted to highlight right now. So if you have questions about applying for the honors program itself, that will be through the university honors program. So the best thing to do is to reach out to them. But I do know that generally around the end of December is when they start processing applications, and you can continue to apply for that if you are interested in honors housing, if seeing that video of Boyd made you excited to be in that space. And you should, I don't have an exact date, and I don't know if the honors program does either, but generally around end of December, early January. But the biggest thing is you can apply for honors housing even before you know whether you have been accepted into the honors program. We just aren't able to fully process your application until that happens. But again, that will open on December 9th. So if you still haven't heard back by then, which I think you probably wouldn't yet have heard, go ahead and apply. We encourage you to do that. All right. So our last specialty housing option is Smurthwaite. The full name is Smurthwaite Scholarship and Leadership House. It is an all-female community on campus that houses up to 45 residents. It's a very small community. It's one of our smallest communities now. And so what's different about Smurthwaite is that it offers a cooperative living environment where the residents who live there have some light cleaning duties and other requirements related to the 5 pillars that are listed there: leadership, scholarship, service, friendship, and connection. And everything that they do, there are certain requirements for living in that space, revolve around those 5 pillars. And it's a very tight-knit community because it is such a small community. So that does also require an additional application. So again, that will not go live until December 9th, but you can scan that QR code and save that link if you are interested in applying. Of course, you can learn more about Smurthwaite and what that unique community entails as well. But again, this might be a space where, like with a cat community, you have a smaller space to connect with others if you're looking for a little bit of a quieter, smaller community where you're able to connect rather than maybe a larger residence hall.
Awesome. All right. So, on to the dining part of housing and dining. Our next couple slides, we're going to talk about our meal options for our residents. So, right now we have two open dining centers, Derby Dining Center and Kramer Dining Center. And then next year we'll have the Van Zyl Dining Center Cafe. More information is going to come about that later about what specifically that's going to look like, but we're very excited to have another option in Van Zyl. So residents can use their meal plans at any of those three options, whatever's open at the time. Over the weekends, Derby will be open one day and Kramer will be open one day, but regardless of what hall or what side of campus you live on, anybody that has a meal plan can eat in any of those dining centers. So I think our dining centers are pretty special. The food is made from scratch. Our dining staff work really hard to make awesome menus. It's really cool. And the food is all you can eat. So once you enter the dining center, you eat as much as you want until it's time for you to go. Different depending on the time of day, we have different like food line options, so you can kind of explore, walk around the dining center and see a lot of different types of cuisines available, depending again on the time of day. Our app and our website have access to the dining center menu, so you can kind of get an idea of what different options might be available for each meal. So another, I think, very cool feature of our dining program is that we have dietitians who can help with food allergies or like dietary restrictions and preferences. And those staff members will meet with you to make sure that you can eat appropriately in the dining center, regardless of any like medical needs or cultural needs or whatever. If you have specific dietary needs or preferences, we got you covered. And that's again at all three dining centers. Okay, so if you've heard me talk at all this year, you might have heard me say that we were waiting on some information on our meal plans, and we have it now. So it's going to be really exciting. You might have some questions about this. It's new information. I'll try my best to explain it to you. So we got two different options for meal plans here. And a new part of this process that's different from the way it happened before is that now you're going to select your meal plan during room selection. So that's like, remember later in the spring is when you'll decide which meal plan, so you don't have to decide right now, which is great. But the options that you'll be choosing from are either the every meal or the weekly 12. So for every meal, you'll have meal swipes, meal points, and then it lists the cost here on the slide. So a meal swipe would be you swipe in, go into the dining center, eat whatever you want, and then you leave. So for every meal, that's 20 entrances into the dining center per week. So that would cover every meal, like breakfast, lunch, and dinner for when the dining centers are open. Our dining centers don't serve meals on Sunday nights. So we have some more flexibility this semester with the meal points in order to kind of supplement that a little bit. So with that every meal plan, you get 200 meal points per semester, and you'd be able to use that at the Van Zyl Cafe or different like HDS retail locations to cover you yourself on Sunday night, or if there's another meal that you might have missed or whatever you need. There also, if you want to do even more meals at Van Zyl or in other retail locations, you can purchase dining dollars, and you can do that like and have those billed to your CASES student account. So your other option would be the weekly 12. So if you don't think you would eat up to 20 meals in a week, you could just choose 12 meals per week. And with that meal plan, you would get 100 meal points per semester. So the meal plans reset every Friday at 11:59 p.m. And the rates are pending approval from the Board of Regents. Just another quick note is if you are a Jardine resident, a transfer student, or an off-campus student, we also have meal plans available for those students, which is awesome to know that even, if later in your career you decide to move off campus, you could still purchase a meal plan if that helps you support yourself with food and things. All right. So, quick slide here about roommates. Most of our students live with at least one roommate, and the number of residents that are in a room would depend on the room type. So, most of our like traditional private spaces would have kind of two roommates in one room. But if you have a suite style room, you might have three or four roommates, or two or three. You might have a few more roommates. So either way, you're probably going to have at least one roommate. So here's how that's going to work. If you already know somebody that you want to room with, maybe it's someone from your hometown, someone you meet at a recruitment event. If you already know who that person is, you're going to list each other when you fill out your housing applications. So have that person's contact information ready and be ready to put each other down so that we know that you want to be paired up as roommates. If you don't have somebody in mind, we have a couple options. One would be the Room Sync app, which you can access through the resident portal. That would let you get on and fill out a profile and meet or see other students who are interested in finding roommates and decide if you would be a good match with those people. We always like to give people a heads up that sometimes people don't create their profiles right away. Like you might need to wait a little bit for more people to start showing up on that, which is okay because you can go back in later to add a roommate. You don't have to know that information right away when it's time to do the application. If you don't want to do either of those options, that's okay. We would suggest that you just choose the room that you like best when it's time to select your room. And then most likely, someone else will also be assigned or choose that room. And then you can just meet them when it's time to come to campus. You would be able to access like a way to contact that roommate beforehand. But if you went with like a random roommate, either way, we have staff who can help you get to know each other and work out any roommate conflicts that might come up. But most students have a great experience with their roommate, regardless of whether or not they knew them before they came to K-State.
Alrighty. So before we jump into the demo, which Kathy is going to start now, I just wanted, or we wanted to provide you with a link to how-to guides. They're still being worked through just a little bit. So the guides for the fall semester will be added as soon as we can. But if you want to bookmark this link for, so essentially it'll kind of distill down what Kathy is going to explain within a step-by-step guide for you. If you want to have access to that resource in case you feel like you want to go back through what everything looks like and may not want to watch the whole webinar or whatever that looks like, just to give you different formats in which to see this information, go ahead and scan that QR code. That will give you access to that page, and then once that is uploaded, we will you'll be able to utilize that for as you're thinking about or completing your application as well. So just wanted to mention that, and now we're going to move into the demo that Kathy will be doing of the housing application. So we'll go ahead and let her take over.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Let me see if I can get my screen shared. Apologies on that. Okay. Are you guys now seeing our residents housing and dining website? Is that what you're seeing?
Yes.
Anyone? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you so much. So welcome everybody. I'm really excited that you are here, and thank you for taking your time tonight. And if you have any other further questions after this, please let us know what we can do to help by contacting our office. So from our housing and dining services homepage, so housing.k-state.edu, you can access the resident portal a couple of ways. We've got this button over here on this top portion, or if you scroll down, you'll see the link for our resident portal, our very exciting and very helpful tool, Explore Your Options. So if you want to put together, okay, where is this cat community? Where are these room types, etc., you can build a housing option selection for yourself on that. So either way, you can click on those and you will come then to the Housing and Dining Services resident portal. So this is what it's going to look like. You're going to log in. And you are going to sign in with your K-State EID and password. If you have not yet logged into this resident portal, we recommend that you give it a try. The reason being is a lot of times we find out that people have issues with their Wildcat ID or EID. It hasn't been verified yet, or maybe they've mixed up which EID they actually have. This is a great time to try it. And if you're having any issues, to give us a call and let us help you figure those pieces out. So when you log into your resident portal, this is what we call our home page on this. And so you're going to see a couple of tiles here on the front page. And the one that you're going to be working through is this apply option. So once you are here, it is going to be really critical to know that we are showing a couple of sessions. So we are currently in that Residence Halls 2025, 2026. So that is this year. So students that are applying to arrive in the spring semester, they'll be clicking on this button. So it needs to show, I can't hide it for you, it needs to show the Jardine apartments for this year also are showing. So it's going to be really important that you look for this 26-27 session. So right now it's that second from the bottom. So you're going to click on that option. And since I'm coming in as a first year student, it's giving me this one option. So I'm a new resident and I want to live in that residence hall for the fall of 26 and the spring of 27 semester. So just make sure that you're kind of looking at that website and making sure you're applying for the correct time. Okay, roommate groups. If I can give you any advice, the number one answer here is I'll decide on my roommates later. Even if you know your roommates now, you've got them all set, click I'll decide on my roommates later. And the reason for that is you cannot create a roommate group until everybody has done the application. And so at this point in the game on December 9th, they haven't all done the application. So to get through the process most efficiently, I would say I'll decide on roommates later and you can create your group after you complete the application. It won't change anything about that roommate group. So if I can give you any advice, decide on roommates later. The other thing that I would say about roommates is I would just do the contract now and in March. Once you know your roommate group and know everything about them, you've got them all set, we'll show you in March exactly how to set up that roommate group so you can get through the room sync process or the room selection process most efficiently. So decide on my roommates later. Even if you know your group, you're going to decide later on that one. Okay, so we have here the contract type, which is that 26-27 residence halls. It has a start date of 8/12. And I just want to make a note here that the Faculty Senate is putting together a proposal to start the academic year a week earlier than was originally proposed. It was originally proposed that classes would be starting on August 24th next year. And there is a proposal now at the Board of Regents where classes would begin on August 17th. We believe that that will pass, and we believe that now August 17th will be that first day of class, but it still has not been officially decided. So at this moment in time, we have based our start and end dates based on that proposal so that our residence halls would open on August 12th. And for an August 17th start date for classes in the fall semester. We do have reserve the right to change those dates. If the university does go back to its original August 24th, then these dates would flex accordingly to that start date on there. So just being aware of that. Down here are a bunch of questions, and all of these, there's one that is mandatory. This last one is mandatory. Everything else is not mandatory at this time. So when you're filling out your contract, if you're not sure, just leave it blank and you can come back later and edit it. That is what I would recommend for you. So the questions that we're going to be asking, however, are dietary needs. So if you have maybe a gluten intolerance or a dairy intolerance, anything like that, that you want to meet with our registered dietitians and talk through how to best navigate our dining centers, we would just ask that you mark yes, you have some special dietary needs and you want to meet with one of our registered dietitians to do that. So I can't tell you enough. I'm so impressed with our dining folks. I know that I'm biased on this, but They create special meals. They cook individual meals for people with dietary needs. And so they work so hard to make sure that you get the food that you need. So if you have dietary needs or concerns or questions in general, mark yes, and we'll get you in touch with one of our excellent professionals on that. Dining dollars. So we've seen a couple of questions coming through the Q&A about dining dollars. What is dining dollars versus meal points? Meal points are a part of that meal plan. They are just automatically there that you can use. Dining dollars is an additional option. These will be points or dining dollars that are on your ID card. So you can use them in all of our retail locations, maybe that cup of coffee on the way to school every day. The snack late at night. They can be used in all housing and dining retail locations, and they can also be used in most of the retail locations in the student union. So it's pretty flexible across campus on that. The benefit of this is if you would like to purchase that initial $300 dining dollars, we will bill it to your university CASES account, and you can use financial aid or other forms of payment later on to pay for that if you would like. So that's a little bit of a benefit of that piece. Break housing, our residence halls do close during that university break period. So fall break, that was last week for us. Spring break in March, and then the winter break, which is the time period between the end of the fall semester and the beginning of that spring semester. The residence halls do close. We ask that students move out. However, if you do need to stay, you're welcome to stay. We ask that you just sign up for that break period so we can get you door access. And there is an additional cost. We only charge it the people that are staying. So we don't want to put that cost on those that are not staying. Cat communities, this is where Whitney talked a lot about this. This is where you can tell us your preference of you would like to learn more information. So this is not officially signing up for the cat community. This is your way of saying, hey, I want to know more about animal health and nutrition. Can I get in touch with our colleagues over in K-State First and they can contact you with more information? So just be aware of that. This is essentially asking for more information about these individual cat communities, and then the K-State First crew will help you sign up officially for it and enroll in those classes. So just being aware of that. Smurthwaite House, if you would like to be on that list to get more information about Smurthwaite, you can definitely do that. Honors Housing, if you would like some more information on that, you can do that as well. Again, this is just indicating you'd like more information about this so that we can contact you with more details. Information release. So we would highly recommend that if mom or sister or any sort of support person may be calling our office and asking about your account, we ask that you put their name there. Who do we have permission to talk to about your contract? Now, this does not extend into any judicial, like once you're here, things like that. This is specifically for the housing contract. This also does not extend to CASES accounts. So some of you may be a designee on a CASES account. Unfortunately, we don't have access to that information. And so we ask that you just list the names of the individuals who we can talk to. So please don't just put mom and dad. I don't know who mom and dad are. We prefer those names on there. So if you can just list mom's name, dad's name, friend's name, things like that. And then the last question that you are required to answer, you wouldn't be able to proceed without, is this felony affirmation. So if you've ever pleaded guilty to an Alford plea, felony offense, etc., we would ask that you would mark yes, and an individual from our Office of Student Support and Accountability will be in touch with you. So make sure that you mark yes or no as appropriate for you. You'll be able to click next on there. And then again, this is just kind of a review. We have very intentionally left this contract to be as basic and simple as we possibly can. And so it looks like, oh, that's not a lot of a contract. That was very intentional. We tried very hard on that. So again, this is just a review of what you selected. You can edit your selections here and it will bring you back to this page on those pieces. And if everything looks good here, you can click next. This will take you to our terms and conditions. And so we are going to put a copy of these terms and conditions out on our website so that you can review them in detail. When you are submitting this residence hall contract, this is an official contract with the university, so we want you to be certain of what you are signing. Because it's a very important document. Going through, it talks about the opening dates, who's eligible to live with us, how we're going to do resident space selection, those types of things. The other thing that I want to make sure we point out is this termination by resident. So in here, we lay out, okay, if you sign this contract but then decide you're not coming to K-State, you're going to do an exemption to live in a fraternity house or live with mom and dad at home. You decide later on. It talks about if you want to cancel this contract, if you cancel it, prior to June 1st, 2026, then we will refund your initial payment back to you less the $30 application fee, which is non-refundable. So June 1st is that deadline. If you cancel after June 1st, there is a $200 cancellation fee between then and when the contract begins on August 12th. So just being aware of that June 1st date, we're going to try and highlight it for you as much as we can. Once you move in or occupy that space, if you decide to cancel your contract after that, please be aware that if you are canceling your contract, but you're going to remain enrolled at the university, there's a 50% buyout of the remainder of your contract. So if you decide maybe spring semester you want to move into your fraternity or your sorority, or maybe you want to move back home, those types of things, just be aware that there is a 50% buyout of that remainder of the contract. This contract is for the full academic year. Before you cancel that contract early, we will have you meet with a member of our staff. We just want to make sure we know exactly what's going on, why you're choosing to move out, and just making sure we've done everything that we can to assist you and that you know what it means to cancel that contract. So have questions, definitely let us know on those pieces. After you've read this, go ahead and click accept on there. This will take you to that payment portion, the $30 and the $200 contract initial payment. This is in our test system, so it's going to look just a little bit different. I'm going to be able to put a fake credit card on here. You'll be able to click this credit debit card and type in that number. And hit the pay to 30. So if you make sure you have your credit card information ready to go so that you can enter it. And that is it. That is all there is to doing the residence hall contract. You can either click here or you can come to this dashboard here. Now, it's also really important, just like on that front screen, there were a bunch of years listed. We do have a number of contracts here. So right now, this is the residence halls 2026, 2027. My account looks a little bit odd because I've been testing and doing a lot of things on here. So you should only see this one option here at the top. If you wanted to view your contract and see your selections, maybe you want to change anything of those selections, you can edit those selections right there. You and mark those. If you wanted to cancel your application before that June 30th or June 1st, I apologize, June 1st, you can do that. You can select the option of why you won't be living on campus, and you can hit submit on there. So that's how you'll cancel that application. The other option, and what I was mentioning, is here is how you will create your roommate group after you submit your contract. So you're going to click this join group now, and you'll be able to enter the Wildcat ID numbers of the individuals that you want to be a part of your group. You'll add those members, and then those roommates will need to go in and confirm that they want to be a part of your roommate group. So it's really important, and this is why we recommend that you just wait until February or March. You want to identify who is going to be your group leader and have that person create the group and let the other individuals confirm. So there's no particular rush, just take your time, discover the group leader. If for some reason your group leader needs to change, that can happen. We can do that very easily afterwards as well. but you'll have to confirm the group, and then that group leader will be the one that will go in and select the room for you. You cannot be confirmed in a group until you have an official contract. So just being aware of that as well. And again, just being on our homepage, we've got more information, or the dashboard is how you would get to your specific application and contract on there. So that is that residence hall contract. If you have any questions, you can definitely get in touch with us. We'd be happy to help in any way that we can. All right.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Kathy. So, a couple of things just to keep in mind regarding the application. So, we recommend that you log in and confirm your EID and password. The EID is what the name for your username before the application goes live. So you can go to eid.kstate.edu to work on that. Any issues related to logging in with your EID, you're going to want to contact K-State Central IT. The phone number is here on the slide there. If you would like to, you can review and the housing contract on our homepage. And we also have a recommendation that it'd be helpful if everyone is patient when, especially like on December 9th at 3 p.m. or in those first few days, just try to like resist the temptation to click on links if you've already clicked them. It's gonna often, most of the time, probably gonna be a lot of people using the system all at once. So the system might run a little bit slowly when it first opens up. Another just like few reminders about doing your application. You won't be submitting a building or room preference. Remember that you just do your application and then later you choose from whatever rooms are available. Again, we also recommend that you don't put in your roommate information at first. It'd be better to come back and do this after the fact. And one last reminder that you can edit your application until July 1st of 2026 without affecting your place in line for room selection. Okay, and we have our rates for 2026 and 2027. If you go to this QR code, it'll show you the rate sheet, but there's also a screenshot right here of part of what it looks like. And this document is super helpful because it tells you which room type is available in each of the residence halls and explains the exact rate breakdown for each room based on the room type and the building, and that would be per semester per person.
Great. So this slide essentially recaps the important dates for you to know that are some of the key dates up until move-in. So March 23rd, if you are a confirmed residential cat community and honors housing student, then room selection begins on that date. And then in early to mid-April is when general room selection will occur. So again, that your place in line for that depends on when you submit your housing application and payment. We will host, as I mentioned at the beginning, a move-in webinar in the middle of July that will provide more information specifically about what to expect. In terms of what to bring, what move-in will look like, what the logistics are, flow, all of those different pieces of information. And then as Kathy said, currently we're operating off of August 12th being the day that the residence halls open for move-in. We have earlier move-in days associated with that as well, especially if you're looking at being band member or participating in sorority recruitment. So we'll have more information about that as we get into July. So anticipate more specifics coming as we get closer, but just wanted to provide that date. Again, just with the caveat that Kathy provided of if the first day of classes does not get changed, that this date may change. But again, that will be communicated with you all. So, then the last piece is, I mentioned this as well, our room selection webinar is going to be on Tuesday, March 10th. So save that date because that will walk you through how to do room selection within this system, what it's going to look like, what to expect, how to look for the selections. It's if you have had a sibling or a child who has done the room selection process before, it's going to look quite different within the system. So just for you to be aware of how to do that when you are able to do so. And then lastly, we, for a couple of reasons, encourage you to follow us on our social media platforms. So that's going to be Facebook and Instagram. First, we tomorrow are hosting a live Q&A on Instagram for anything that you this evening maybe thought of afterwards and were able to get answered and would like to ask within that space. Additionally, we do community spotlights within or starting in January up until room selection. And that'll be a look into what each building's community looks like so you can get an idea of what options you have available to you and what those communities look like and consist of so that you can help, so that that can help you build a list of options for yourself because not everyone necessarily is going to get their first option. So, what are the options that would be available to you for selection as well? So, we encourage you to follow us there to get that information. Alrighty, so we are going to open it up for Q&A. So we'll go ahead and stop sharing that screen, but go ahead before we do so, you can write down that contact information. Of course, it was at the bottom of the slides throughout. But if you have any questions at all, reach out to our main office at that phone number provided or at that email, or go onto our website. All of this information is on our website as well. So you can access that there and get answers to any additional questions that you might have come up as we go through this process. So we'll go ahead and start answering some questions. So Kathy, Jordan, and I will be on the screen answering some questions. We're going to be addressing some specifically that have come up fairly often. Um, so I think one of excuse me, one of the questions that we'll start with is dining dollars and how dining dollars work. I know Kathy mentioned as she was showing her demo, but just how much is it? How much can you add on each time? Um, and then just wanted to mention that we will have more information coming about the points and how those will work as we get into the room selection webinar and you'll actually choose your meal plan. We just kind of wanted to introduce that to you. The meal points are new to us this year. Kathy, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add.
Yeah, it's a new program with this new meal plan. And so, yeah, there's just lots that not anything we can share from personal experience and usage at this point, but if you have a specific question, email it to that housing@ksu.edu and we'll get it to our dining professionals who helped create that meal plan, those options, and we'll get you the answers you need on those pieces um, on there.
There were questions about room sync and when
Mhm.
that will be available.
Yeah, so Room Sync will not open until December 9th. So again, it all is tied directly to when that contract specifically opens. So if you're looking for Room Sync right now, you're ahead of the game. And so if you can just hold on with us on December 9th, it will be active. And what you will see is on this homepage, like next to this request, you'll see a room sync tile. Sorry, I did not share the screen. So in that resident portal, you'll see a tile here that says room sync on it, and it will have the specific links in there. So that will go live on December 9th. And so, and again, you have all the way until April to do that. The other thing I would say about room sync is a lot of people get in there in December, and a couple of people have called us and they said, nobody's accepting me as a roommate. There's only two people in there. We really recommend that you just take your time on that room sync. Like, don't make snap decisions. We see a lot of people getting into the room sync in like February and March timeframe. So take your time, find the right person. Don't just pick somebody because you think you might be out of time. Just really slow that down, look at it all the way through February and March and be watching it, and then try and pick the best person for you. More and more people constantly are getting into the system the closer we get to March in that time frame on there. The other one that came up, somebody mentioned that they had found the app for our K-State Community Connections. And you, again, head of the game. We've got all of our people that are on top of it. That is designed specifically for our students that currently live with us. So that is a tool that we use for our current students. That's how we tell them that they have a package delivered. We manage all of our mail through that, or package deliveries through that. It's also a way for our RAs to connect with the individuals on the floor. So if you are having trouble signing in and you're not assigned to a K-State room right at this moment, that would be correct. You need to be assigned to a room in order to be successful using that application. So next July, when we get ready for room move-in, that sounds a little bit odd to say at this moment in time, but when we get ready for move-in, we'll give you all that information about how to sign up for that application to be most successful in that fall semester. So. I accidentally hit an answer live on one question, so I apologize, Sarah. Do you have to live in honors housing if you are in the honors program? For the most part, no. There are a couple of housing or scholarships that do require you to live in honors housing, but in general, no, it is not a requirement. And so if you need to live wherever you feel like you will be most successful on that. I also saw a question come up about emotional support animals or housing accommodations. Our housing office partners with our Student Access Center on campus, and they review all of the accommodations requests. They take all the medical documentation that's required for those, and then they'll sit down with you and talk through what is it that you need specifically, and they'll advise housing and dining then on what you need to be successful. So if you are needing a housing accommodation or questions about an emotional support animal, the student will direct you to the Student Access Center as they are the experts on that. So, um,
There are several questions about who completes the application, whether it's the student or the parent.
mhm.
So you're going to log in using the student's login information and complete the application that way. So you will be signing in with their information. Um, I don't know if there's any further information you would want to include
Yeah.
in that, but just know it will be their login information
Hmm.
and then move forward and complete that application.
Yeah, it's just important to know that if a parent completes the contract, that's a choice that you guys can make, but you are completing it for that student, and that student is the one that will be officially signing that contract and responsible for that contract. So just being aware of that piece. I did see a question about a cost for room sync. There is no cost to participate in room sync. That is provided as a part of the housing contract. It doesn't cost to get additional matches or things like that. So there should be no additional cost to you guys to use room sync as long as you are going through our resident portal. It's important to start at our resident portal and go to RoomSync because you'll have a specific link that gets you to the K-State section of RoomSync. If you start at RoomSync, it will say which school are you with, what are you trying to search for. So it's important that you start at K-State and go directly to RoomSync from there. Um, so if you choose to add break housing, can the student stay in the room they are already in, or do they have to move to a different building? Typically, you will be able to stay in the room that you are in. Occasionally, we've had a situation where we had to do an upgrade to an elevator or a fire alarm system, and we chose the break to do that. If it's a fire or a health and safety, we may have you move to a different building. So in general, I would say yes, you get to stay, but otherwise we would move you in those rare circumstances. The other question I saw come up was, do I need to move everything out during the breaks, especially like that winter break? The answer is no. You can leave all of your items in the room. You can move in August and move out in May. So over that winter break, you can leave all your books and academic work, your couch, everything can stay in your room. And then you can move out in May at the end of the academic year.
One other question that I just marked to answer live. Lost it. Where'd it go?
The difference between CAT communities, residential communities, and learning communities.
You can go ahead and do that one if you want to while I
Okay.
look for this one.
Yeah, so CAT communities is the K-State terminology for living learning communities. So living learning communities is like that facial tissue, and K-State is the Kleenex versus the puffs, that kind of a thing. It's the specific living learning community. So other schools may call them other things, but residential living learning communities, that's all CAT communities. That's the specific K-State name for them. Scholarship housing, we do have the Smurthwaite Scholarship Leadership House, and then we have honors housing. So it just depends on which option that you're most interested in on that.
I found the question. So it was asking about idea authentication. So essentially, Duo. Will they need to set up Duo before?
Um, That's a great question. I don't know specifically. I would recommend it because the K-State is, as you get through that process, they're going to ask you to sign up for Duo to get into some of the other K-State things. So if you have an opportunity, I would probably go ahead and do it. Let's see, the difference between a meal point and a meal swipe. So meal swipes, you would have 12 or 20 each week, and you can use those at the dining centers. And so one swipe is one entrance into a dining center. Meal points, it's $200 or 200 points is similar to like the $200. So if you had a guest, mom and dad were coming to visit you for the weekend and you wanted to take them to the dining centers, you could use meal points and get a discounted meal for 10 meal points, or kind of like $10 meal points. You could use those to bring in guests. And then they're still working on the Van Zyl Cafe meal options, but it will be a meal equivalent type thing where they say for 10 meal points, this is what you would be able to get. So the whole goal is just to kind of extend those meal time options, as well as providing that Sunday evening meal option for students.
All right, so we may take just a couple more questions. We'll try to answer as many as we can. One that's a longer question that I will answer right now is buildings within the strong community. We are moving students from Putnam Hall into Boyd Hall in a few days, so they will be moving into Boyd Hall and they will live there starting in the spring semester, and we will begin renovating Putnam. And that is anticipated to be open kind of down the line. Van Zyl is being renovated as well, specifically because Van Zyl Dining Center is going to be opening, as well as coffee shop and retail location in there as well. So all of those spaces essentially are being renovated. Not all of them are going to be available and renovated within the 2026-2027 school year. So just be aware of that. If you would like to live within the Strong community, because it is all the two buildings that are open are going to be all honors housing, you or your roommate do ha need to be within or a member of the honors program. And essentially being in honors can open the opportunity for you to be in that space. There isn't a specialty pricing option or anything available for that space. It just is available. And then the honors program offices are going to be moving into the basement of Boyd Hall, and there'll be access to collaborative spaces and other things within there, which hopefully you saw within the video. And so that could be a benefit as well.
The other thing to note is we've talked a lot about Boyd Hall, but Moore Hall is also currently under renovations and is scheduled to open. So right now we have one wing closed and one wing open. That is also that same traditional private pod style bathroom setup. So West Hall, Moore Hall will all be that setup. So if Boyd Hall, if the room type is what you were most interested in, we would recommend that you look at West or Moore Hall, because Moore Hall is also being renovated currently. So lots of options to choose from.
All right, so we will, for any remaining questions that didn't get answered, if there are very specific ones, we'll follow up with you as well, just in terms of thinking about rates and what halls look like. We have opportunities. Jordan leads this. We have opportunities to tour the buildings and see spaces. We also have virtual tours on our website that you can look at and see what the inside of Haymaker or any hall looks like. That Haymaker was a specific question in there. We also have in the chat there's a link to the rates so you can take a look at all of the rates. Make sure you look at the second page to be able to see honors housing, so Boyd and Van Zyl rates that will be on there. Um, and I think anything else that you see that we definitely want to answer, Jordan or Kathy, before we log off? I don't.
Questions about firearm? Yes, we would just recommend that you contact the K-State Police. You can have a safe in your room for that. But if more specific questions about the weapons policy, I am not the expert. We would recommend checking out that weapons policy that's there's a link to it in our contract, as well as contacting our K-State police officers. They'd be happy to help you with that as well. Whitney, you may have answered that. One of the questions was when will be the sample contract terms and conditions be on our website? That is on me. It was a busy day today, so we'll get that over to Whitney and you can see that in the next couple of days, definitely before December 9th.
And just one more time reiterating that the link for the rates is included in the chat, so you can go ahead and pull that from the chat. That'll also bring you to a page where you can pull that rate sheet. There's a link to that PDF. Alrighty, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. So thank you all for joining us this evening. Like I said, we will, if there are any questions that didn't get answered that we need to get answered, but again, join us for the Q&A tomorrow on Instagram as well. Again, we appreciate you joining us and let us know if you have any questions as you're navigating this process. And have a wonderful evening.